Fox host Brian Kilmeade wants you to go back to work, even if it kills you.
The kids need to be in school. The parents need to be teaching in school. The mayor's saying get into school. The governors are saying get into school. The president's saying get into school. Dr. Fauci said get to school. They're the only thing stopping. These kids are going to have their learning curve forever curtailed unless something happens quickly. And this should be our mantra from here on in. Let's not get caught up in the daily nuances of what doctor's in and what's out. It's called live with it. Go to work, live with it. Get on a train, get on a bus, get on a plane. How do we live with it? We can no longer hide from it.
Says the guy hiding in his home studio. I'm just saying. I wonder if he'd have a different tune, if he were working shoulder to shoulder with another person in a poultry plant for, just a little bit more than minimum wage. I wonder if he would be a little bit different. Gee, I don't know. But look, this is Fox News. Totally mask off, as usual. And let me tell you the reality about this, okay? So this is the message that we're getting, as he points out, yes, from the president, from, Dr. Fauci, from all of these officials who basically want to push everyone back to work. That's generally the whole purpose, the whole narrative that they're doing on COVID. Get people back to work, go back to work, go back to work. Now, the whole point of pushing the kids back to school is to get people to go back to work to make profit for the bosses. Now, this is as Omicron. Look, we've hit over 1 million cases. We're like in a day, record number of cases. So you're going to tell me in the midst of all of this that the correct thing is to send everyone back to school and everyone back to work before this surge has even ended? No, that's ridiculous. And by the way, we're not safer here. All right? You have record numbers of children that are being hospitalized due to Omicron. Now, thankfully, children are less likely to die from COVID, but they're still getting sick, they're still going to the hospital, and yes, some are still dying. And even failing that, children are a vector for COVID, which impacts people who are immunocompromised. And again, vaccinated people were able to get COVID, were able to spread COVID. Now that said, vaccinated people, when a breakthrough infection happens, we're way less likely to go to the hospital, to have serious or severe symptoms. All right. And so that said, you get COVID, you still have to isolate. You still have to stay home. And so I don't know what they believe they're going to accomplish by forcing everyone back to work, back into the office during this Omicron surge, especially when they're going to get sick and have to stay home. And what they're doing, honestly, and we all know the answer to it, is that they're playing survival of the fittest. You know what? We're done. We're just going to send everybody back to work. If they die, they die. Now, that said, they always tried to push this throughout the entirety of the pandemic, and even back before we had a vaccine. Now, thankfully, we do have a vaccine, and that does change the game. Now, the thing is, yes, the vaccine is effective, but only if you take it. Not everybody is doing so. You have Republicans that have refused to take it. And now, here's the thing. I know I'm going to upset everybody when I say this, but I don't want Republicans to die. A shocker, right? Oh, no. And here's the thing. They might want to, but I don't want them to. I don't want them to get COVID. I don't want them to die. I really wish they felt the same thing about us, and didn't want us to die. But hey, unlike some of them, I actually care about life. I actually care about life that's already been born into this world. It must be because of my bleeding heart. I know. What a terrible person I am to not want Republicans to die. But again, the people who are continuously pushing people to go back to work, they don't care if you live or die. They've got money to make. And it's all about the money. It's all about corporate profits. It's also, by the way, a little bit about control. When you're in the office, when you're in the workplace, you're much easier to control, right? They can tell you what to do. They can tell you when to go to the bathroom, when to get a snack, when to eat, how much productivity you get to have. And by the way, you know, in the jobs where you're able to work from home, and I understand that there's a lot of jobs where you can't, but if you're working from home and you're still getting the same amount of work done and being as productive, then I don't see why you shouldn't be able to stay home. Why be forced to come back into the office? And of course, the reason is, as I mentioned before, this is about control. It's about trying to control people and, you know, curtailing efforts for you to, I don't know, be human and not just look busy or act busy to look busy for the boss. It's part of the whole weirdo work culture that we have in this country, where even if you're not really busy, you still got to look busy. And even if you're super productive, if you take a break, well, yeah, you can't do that. You're not being productive, but I got all my work done. Well, then they just want to pile more work onto you. And that's what they do. And so understand, too, that this control extends into, if you keep people busy enough, they don't think about their conditions. Now, I say that because what happened during this pandemic? A lot of things have happened. For one, people got stimulus checks from the government, and it turned out to be incredibly popular. I know, right? And in fact, you have a petition for more stimulus checks that has reached over 1 million signers. A very, very popular position. Now, they also discovered that the government is able to give you free medicine in the form of a vaccine. And they're starting to think, well, wait a minute, if you could do that for that, why can't you do that for insulin? They found out that the government can actually help you, for example, by delaying your student loan payments or delaying your rent payments, keeping you in a home. Wait a minute, they could do that? I didn't have to pay rent. I didn't have to pay for my student loans. Now, some people still made the choice to be able to pay those student loans in order to, you know, take advantage of the, 0% interest rate and all of that. But they realized that, it's almost as if the government can actually do things that will help us. Now, why don't they do this kind of stuff more often? Because we're struggling. Now, they also realized in this pandemic that their bosses generally don't give a shit about them, and that they exploited them, and that the workers who were working 2 to 3 uniquely American jobs were too busy to notice, too wrapped up in having to survive to actually notice what's going on, that they were being exploited by their bosses. In fact, an NBC News pointed out that low-wage workers had suffered disproportionately during the pandemic and began demanding improvements in the form of higher wages, meal and rest breaks, better benefits, and shorter shifts. And added that the pandemic served as a wake-up call of sorts for them by exacerbating existing issues and highlighting the fact that their work could literally pose a threat to their lives. Remember when we called them essential workers? People at the grocery stores? Remember when there was a very, very short window of time where they were getting hazard pay? In some cases, when they were getting extra pay, because, they had to deal with some of the worst customers, the anti-maskers that would come in, that would bully them, that would threaten them. And remember when they still had to work while people that usually were higher paying got to go home, got to stay home and not do anything and still get paid for it, unemployment benefits. But hey, you're an essential employee. You're working at the grocery store. You're working at the gas station. You're working and you're keeping the very basic functions of society alive, and yet received absolutely nothing for it. The hazard pay was ephemeral, gone. The pandemic's still here, but where's the pandemic pay? It's gone. It's gone. just like the unemployment benefits are gone, just like the stimulus checks were long, long gone. And so people realize, hey, I'm not being treated fairly here. I'm being treated very, very poorly. And so I demand better treatment for working, for putting my life in danger. And when that didn't happen, they quit their jobs. They quit their jobs en masse. The Great Resignation, they call it. And others didn't quit their jobs, but they decided to go and stage labor strikes. Kellogg's, John Deere, Kaiser Permanente, coal miners in Appalachia that were represented by the United Mine Workers of America, striking for better pay, better benefits. And there were many others. And others who are not unionized, pushed for unionization. Activision Blizzard employees, Amazon warehouse workers, not only in Bessemer, Alabama, which ultimately failed, but now will be redone because the company was found to have interfered in the process. But also Amazon workers, warehouse workers in New Jersey. And so, you also have Starbucks employees. One in New York, Buffalo, had successfully unionized their store. And there are other examples of workers that are finally able to push back. Now, all of this has scared the piss out of the owner-donor class. People that Brian Kilmeade represents, the people that are telling you, just deal with it, get on a train and go back to work. And that's why, first, they got their goons in Congress to rip away that extended unemployment, and have needlessly, relentlessly pushed their workers to get back to work. And when that didn't work at first, they decided, let's go after the children and send the children back to work, back to school, sorry. Oh, they would love to send the children to work. Don't get me wrong. In fact, there are places, fast food places, for example, that have decided, we're going to hire 14-year-olds. We're going to hire teenagers, and we're going to say, well, if the adults won't work for low wages, let's hire the children. So that happened as well during the pandemic. But no, they also wanted mainly to send the kids back to school so that they could send the parents back to work. And of course, when the kids are back in school, in a country where you don't have affordable childcare, what are you going to do? I mean, kids got to, you send kids back to school, and then, you got to go back to work. So, and not only that, by the way, we don't have paid leave in this country. We don't have paid leave. But now here's Fox News. Brian Kilmeade, one of the biggest corporate stooges in the country. And I say that pretty much for all Fox News employees, Fox News hosts, I should say. They're telling you, no, ignore everything that you learned about this during the pandemic. Stop fighting against capitalism. Stop striking. Stop refusing to go back into the office. Stop having any sort of notion of class solidarity. And go back to work. Even if you get sick, even if it kills you, because we are going to find some way to force you back into that office, back into our control. And that's what it is. And by the way, this is even more ghastly when you consider the messenger. Now, it's one thing, Dr. Fauci saying, unvaccinated people, go back to work. Vaccinated people, go back to work, right? Well, we are vaccinated. We are more protected from the virus. That said, this is Brian Kilmeade telling his mostly unvaccinated audience, go back to work. Go back to work. By the way, Republicans are more than 3 times more likely to be unvaccinated than Democrats. They're literally killing their own audience. 60% of unvaccinated Americans identify as being Republican or Republican-leaning. That's millions of people. That's his audience that he is telling, I don't care. Get on a train. getting a tiny little metal tube, not full of demons, but full of virus, but full of COVID. Because I don't give a damn about you. All I give a damn about is for you to make money for capital owners. That's it. And by the way, he does this while he is not putting himself in harm's way, while he is sitting at home in his nice little cushy home studio. Hey, I have a home studio. I love it too. And I know it's safe. I know it's a safe space and it's protected from the virus. But he's telling you to go back to work and put yourself in danger. And it's also while he is vaccinated. Fox News has mandated that anybody that's in the office, and they were in the office before Omicron, they must have received at least one vaccination shot by December 27th of last year to be able to show up in person. He's vaccinated. Tucker Carlson's vaccinated. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, just about all of them. If not all of them. Candace Owens, definitely. All vaccinated. All vaccinated. They want their viewers ultimately to play with their own lives so that their patrons, the rich, the owner donors, can keep making money again. As if, of course, they ever stopped making money during the pandemic. In fact, they're richer than ever. Richer than ever. But they want you to be distracted from organizing against them to demand higher wages, better benefits, and fair working conditions. And that's just a fact.